Hi, this is Donica Hudson with Truth Tellers Network, and today we have Cindy Decker from Charlotte, North Carolina. Hi, Cindy. Thanks
Hey,
for joining
great to be
us.
with you.
It's great to have you. Cindy Decker became an activist during the 2016 election season after she saw her city, our Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, set on fire with protests that turned into riots, which was ignited by the shooting death of Keith Lamont Scott. Does it sound familiar? Because here we are again. Cindy discovered that the decades of failed policies affecting our most vulnerable communities have become a powder keg. Seeing the toll that it took on law enforcement officers, Cindy met with the chief of police to find out how to build a stronger relationship between the community and the police. Together, they created a program called CMPD Ambassadors. The program has a series of trainings to give community members tools to build bridges across diverse communities, develop communication and conflict resolution skills, mediation tactics, understand local government, know Charlotte's great history, so that these ambassadors can be excellent hosts. And they serve alongside CMPD for major sports events, conventions, as well as being an extra set of eyes and ears during protests like the ones we're having now. So far, 450 residents are part of the program. Cindy and her husband have lived in Charlotte for 20 years with 3 children and 4 grandchildren. Cindy, I am so thankful for you because if anybody is trying to do anything in Charlotte during this time, they know that you are the go-to person in Charlotte to help protect our city. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so glad that I finally found this place that was a huge need, both for the community and for CMPD. And I know this is also something that's needed in police departments around the nation. So
Yeah.
it's thrilling to be finding a place of real usefulness in the community that's really effective.
It really has been effective. Can you tell everyone watching a little bit about what you're doing and how effective it's been? I kind of already shared what the purpose is, but I would
Yeah.
love for you to share what's been happening, and we'll add some pictures in too.
Okay. So really, after we had the conversation in 2016, following the riots, shortly after that, not too far after that, there was, of course, the election, and then the last 2 years have been all leading up really to the RNC convention.
Yeah.
So when we met, the chief himself was like, when this convention goes down, we are going to need an army of volunteers to help CMPD really keep the peace. And so here's the concept. Policing was never meant to be what it is today. It was always meant to be in a total partnership with the community. But because of a lot of political things, there has been such a break from the community and policing. I mean, if you grew up north, you had a beat cop. The cops in the neighborhood knew the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that has so been just destroyed by all kinds of political nonsense and blame that not only has it made the officer's job so much more difficult, we've lost our relationship with these individuals. And they are the community members. They come from our community.
Yeah, and just to back that up, Cindy, I joined one of the calls that it was actually probably a Zoom conference call during this social distancing, and I heard myself, Chief Putney, making a bid to the community to please get to know the officers, that they're there to work with the community. So he is practicing exactly what you're saying. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I found that there was this huge pool of resources that would make the best volunteers and just needed a little training, and that would be all of the churches. I mean, there's over 900 in Charlotte. What are we doing to change our community? We're really good about going to all the world, but there's been, maybe a couple decades where we have neglected our own cities, not so much because we didn't care, but a lot of it was we didn't know how. We didn't know how to get involved and how to make a difference. And so we set out to build that bridge, and that's the purpose of the training, so that people can be informed, so they know, how does government work? Why do the police get blamed whenever there's a spike in crime, or, there's a whole list of things they get blamed for? Well, there's a lot of different factors involved in that have nothing to do with the police, that have to do with the court system, that has to do with, the bail system and the magistrates that make decisions. Once an officer arrests someone, they're delivered to the jail. They're done. Then the officers are out of that loop. So that's very helpful. And people want to know what they're talking about, right? I mean, it's the same thing with elections. People, especially conservatives, they don't want to show up at the ballot box and not know what the issues are, not know what they're doing. Right. So we're informing people. We're teaching them how city works. We're giving them communication skills on how to be an amazing listener without having a dog in the fight. And a lot of times listening to someone will de-escalate the whole situation without much more. Mediation, understanding what officers do, how they function, a day in the life of an officer, which most people don't, and learning how to build bridges between communities of color, other minorities, being self-aware when we're communicating, so that the Christ in us actually has a strategic way to come out. So that's been really effective. And we've had so many comments from Christians that say, I never realized that when I get in a conversation with someone who doesn't believe like me, my walls go up.
Yeah.
And now I'm learning how to talk to people and know that I don't have to defend my position. I need to show the love of God and give good information, and then their hearts are open to learn more about,
Cindy, I noticed as you're sharing about this wonderful organization, the CMPD ambassadors, that you've got what I would call a kingdom worldview, meaning that you are not, you're not pro-Republican, pro-Democrat, pro-certain denomination or anything. This is about the community that God created all of us equal. And that's the perspective that I get from you, that you're bringing all of God's children together to protect our community. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And then also Chief Putney that you're referring to here, is my understanding, I don't know him like you do, but a lot of people that do have told me what an awesome man of faith that he is. He happens to be, and this is what's so amazing right now, he happens to be a Black man who is a wonderful leader and chief, well-respected, and is having to stand up against the lawlessness. But at the same time, and I heard him on the call say, we have the right to peacefully protest, and is in favor of that. And a lot of people are just looking at the blue suit and blaming and not listening.
Exactly.
Because, this is not Minneapolis. You know, Charlotte, why would Chief Putney have to take the blame for what a rogue officer did in another city? You know? And so that brings me to the point of the city council's meeting today to defund the police department in certain areas. And we're talking about equipment. I noticed that Braxton Winston hit the news. He's seeking to defund chemical use to disperse crowds. Well, when crowds aren't moving and they're posing a threat and businesses are being broken into and looted, and there's all kinds of vandalism and people won't leave, well, how is the police department supposed to do this? I mean, they're trying to limit contact here because of alleged police brutality in other cities. Yet, we've got some city council members trying to absolutely put them in a corner where lawlessness reigns in the city. What is the perspective of the CMPD ambassadors with this?
The CMPD ambassadors, because we know a little bit of the dynamics behind the scene, we recognize when something is put out through media or through outside organizations that have a political agenda.
Yeah.
We know our officers. We know these people. So we know their hearts. We know they are not racist.
Right.
We know that they're dedicated. Most of them are believers. They are the most professional representatives of the kind of community members you want to have, be in charge of safety and law and order. Mm-hmm. So we can see behind the scenes. So it's always just an outrage when they are really being co-opted for a political agenda. And that's what's happening here. We have, their job is to protect property and lives.
Yeah.
When protesters come into our city, their job is to protect the protesters. Yeah. They protect the lives of these people.
Oh, wait, hold on. I want you to say that again, because nobody has ever stated in any mainstream media that the purpose of the police is to protect the protesters. Yet I know that you are speaking exactly what Chief Putney said. Will you say that again?
The job of the law enforcement when protesters come into town is to protect the protesters, to make sure their rights to free speech and their right to protest peacefully is protected.
Yeah.
That's their goal as they walk alongside them, as they do their bikes. There were multiple sources that were doing live video on the scene, and they were trying to be neutral, but they were more on the side of the agenda, that actually admitted that I didn't know that when all of these motorcycle cops come whipping around in front and on the sides of the protesters, it's to block traffic from hitting the protesters.
Wow.
But the protesters were going, why are all these cops showing up? We don't need all this police presence. Well, you actually do.
Yes.
Because they have to protect the city from, lawsuits. And so they're on all these different levels trying to carry that responsibility.
Well, they've also got to protect these protesters from these Antifa-like groups who are hijacking the peaceful protests.
Correct.
To take it and manipulate it into a whole nother matter. And I think, what Chief Putney has been saying over and over again, I want to highlight on this call that the police are the community's friends. Please get to know our officers in your communities and have them on speed dial. If something happens, they're there to protect you. And that's what you said in the beginning of this. And so, I think what's happened is the mainstream media in our nation has painted such a negative view based on, honestly, some horrific incidents that have happened that should not have happened by people in blue. But that does not paint every police officer, and especially the ones in Charlotte, as evil. So there's always evil in every sector of society. And I think Chief Putney is trying to say, this is my life's call here to protect you guys. I'm not your enemy.
Exactly. And our officers, there's no one more brokenhearted and upset about what that officer did than the officers.
Yeah.
Because that destroys all of the good work that they have worked so hard for, just in one event, depending on how the media blows it up. All of that work is seemingly destroyed. And another reason why they need our help to explain, and this week, a lot of us ambassadors were walking with the protesters, and when we had opportunity, we've learned to look for these conversations where they'll make a chant about something, and then we say, actually, let me tell you how it actually works. Because there's like 87% of complaints against bad cops comes from cops. Okay?
Wow.
They police themselves. They're very diligent about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we have to understand. And that's the kind of message that we need to help get out to the community.
Mm-hmm.
They need us to back them up.
Yeah.
And this idea that defunding them is somehow going to make our community safer is absurd.
Right.
And it's a total political agenda. Even their use of the words, learning to recognize all these little buzzwords that the left uses, like chemical. It's pepper. It's pepper gas. Okay, people?
Yeah.
The chemical part, triggers everybody.
Yeah.
I was talking to a major yesterday at one of the gatherings in Ramir Bearden Park, and he said, I don't know what they expect us to do. I mean, yes, you experience some, irritation in your eyes, and it's meant to make you move, go home, disperse.
But in all fairness, that's not used until they continually refuse to disperse and leave. And so that's, breaking the law. And so I think it's pretty gentle to use pepper spray and not, physically force them,
Right. He's like, what, do they want us to use batons? Do they, I mean, that is the way that's been used for many, many years. And people aren't recognizing when it gets to the point where that has to happen, something really bad occurred. That means there had to be some violent act that was committed from the protesters. Now, here's the Antifa strategy. They find the protesters, and they're usually young, very passionate, and they insert themselves, spread out into the group. They will throw something, a brick, a rock, a water bottle, which is very heavy when it gets pelted at you. We had fireworks. Okay, we had.
I saw that.
Unbelievable explosive.
And they sound like gunshots, so they freak everybody out.
Yes, and then all of a sudden, the people in the protesters go, but they're petrified to call them out because they're violent.
Right.
And so they just kind of, go along with it, and then it's too late. Once that happens, game on.
Right.
The officers must respond to protect the other protesters, protect property, and to protect themselves.
Yeah.
It's a really
so as an ambassador, So as an ambassador, what do you do to help get that message to them in the moment? I mean, I think this broadcast is going to help a lot to know that you're on the side of the protesters. And I heard the chief say it, that, this is part of his culture. He wants the peaceful protests, and he wants to protect them. So how do you get that message out when you're an ambassador and you're in the middle of that and people are shooting fireworks and they're doing it so that it sounds like a gunshot, and they'll maybe get somebody else provoked to really using a gun and because they're scared, and then you've got a mass riot and deaths.
Yes. Well, your job is to, as you're walking with the protesters, of course, be wise. And we do have a training course in recognizing certain activity to avoid.
Yeah.
And in conversations, we're never really to engage with the Antifa people because they have one agenda, and that's violence. They don't want to talk. They're not interested in a conversation.
Yeah.
We don't deal with them. CMPD will deal with them. But the other ones, which is the majority, you look for ones that are open to a conversation. Ask them, why are you here? What has affected you? And usually in their communication to you, they're telling you about their pain or their anger.
Yeah.
And as you're listening to them, you're building a certain amount of trust while you're walking for miles, and when something bad happens, they're the ones you've already built a little rapport with that you can talk to and say, hey, look, I know you're not here for that, but we've got to help, keep this movement, keep what you want to do protected so that your message gets heard.
Yes.
And not hijacked, because once that starts, listening's over, no one's hearing your message, it makes you guys look bad. And that's the strategy of these bad actors that come into town.
Yeah.
And I had literally the first night when we were out there in on Beatty's Ford Road, there was a young man born and raised in Charlotte. He had his mask on. He didn't want to tell me his name. He saw me videoing and he put his face right in front of my camera. And he said, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're watching this, if you care about your city, you need to get out here. There's bad people here. They came here. They want to mess things up. And he was using his profanity, but it was like a warning.
Right.
They are here to bring destruction, and we need to get out here and diffuse what we can. And we take pictures, we send them to CMPD, and they act on it. Mm-hmm. And as an example, anyone can look this up. Look up what's happening in Detroit, which is where I grew up. Okay?
Yeah.
This was like a war zone all the time.
Where my media partner grew up too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Sheila's from Detroit. Yeah.
Okay, we need to talk.
Yeah.
The chief of police, they have had so much success in during these weeks of protest. And they interviewed him and said, what is your strategy? What's working? He goes, we have members of the community walking with the protesters.
Yes. Woohoo!
Now, if you could choose any members of your community to walk with the protesters, wouldn't it be believers?
Yeah, peacemakers.
Wouldn't it be people who believe in a moral code, that care about the safety and well-being of their city, and actually care about individual people?
Absolutely.
That's the genius of what this program is about. Mm-hmm. It's what the chief was saying, I need your help to connect with these people. And it's the win-win for the churches that have not known, how do I get involved? What do I do to make a difference?
Well, Cindy, you and I both have Black friends. Some of my best friends are Black and their lives matter. And I know that you would say the same thing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yes. However, the organization Black Lives Matter, their statutes, one of the number one is to defund the police department. And that is across the nation. Now that is lawlessness. And when you've got a great police chief and a force that serves the community, loves the community, and is not doing evil things like that, then that is totally out of line to come and try and defund the police department in our Queen City. So how can those listening stop the defunding of Charlotte's police department?
Those listening, as far as the action that is trying to be taken today, is that what you're referring to?
Yes, the action that's trying to be taken today by the city council wanting to defund the equipment and the chemical used to disperse crowds, while Chief Putney is trying to protect the protesters, allow for peaceful protests. And, in my opinion, our businesses downtown need more police protection with the current looting and vandalization, not less.
Correct. So there are certain things. First of all, the chief or the departments do not write the policies. They don't make the laws, they enforce them.
Yes.
Those that make the policies expect law enforcement to carry that out. If the policies are bad, if they are not working, it's up to the policymakers to make a change. But they need to have pressure put on them from the public to say, you need to change this policy. So there are policies that need to be adjusted, like the chokehold. No, we don't need to do that. But we need to have other options to restrain a violent person. Okay, so those little things need some adjustment. But when you're talking about defunding them, what happens is they take away their equipment. They take away the tools they need to do their job effectively while protecting their lives and the lives of the community. So right now, Braxton Winston is proposing, he's going to make a motion to propose defunding budget money that they're supposed to be voting on the budget, right? So it's like, oh, hold up. We'll use this situation that just happened to try to take money away from the officers who need new vests and a lot of other equipment and shut down their ability, their tools to stop a violent crowd. So we're asking for concerned members of the community to log on to the Facebook Live City Council meeting. Mm-hmm. You can find it on the City of Charlotte government Facebook page. They'll be airing live, and have watch parties. That means if a watch party is, you post that link on your Facebook page and all your friends will start watching, and you can comment in the comment section responding to what the council members are saying. And I'm telling you, I know this for a fact, they read the comments. They might not respond immediately while the meeting is going on. They do read your emails. They do listen to the recorded calls. And you'll see that they mention, I've got so many emails that came in about this, and they'll bring it into the meeting. So don't make the mistake of thinking your voice doesn't matter, your email doesn't matter. It does.
Yes.
So we want to stand with our police officers, and we want to say no to this agenda that's a nationwide agenda that doesn't work for Charlotte.
That's correct. It does not work. They should not have to pay the price for another city's mistake. Okay, exactly. Let's move on to NC Governor Roy Cooper, who tweeted, I want to remind everyone of something vitally important. We cannot focus so much on the property damage that we forget why we are in the streets. He's referring to the protest. What's your response to this?
That's irresponsible. And that someone who is supposed to be the head of governance to keep our state safe, to somehow justify the destruction of property, to me, that exposed he is illegitimate authority in our state. Yeah. That is so irresponsible. It gives people a pass to not only destroy property in this COVID disaster, people that are struggling and hanging on by life support. Yeah. But he doesn't even realize that a lot of those businesses are minority-owned businesses. Yeah. It's insanity to not be mature enough to put the whole thing in perspective, understanding the pain, understanding the passion and the hurt, but directing all of that into reaching out to minorities and people of color and investing in relationships and making sure that they feel loved and they don't feel that they are being discriminated against. Do what you can do in a very personal level to bring healing to your communities, but to change the subject and make it about, if you are concerned about property damage, then you don't care about Black people. That is absurd. It's irresponsible and dangerous.
Very, very. I mean, I look at people like our mutual friend, Jim and Karen Noble, who have served over 70,000 meals downtown. They employ diversity, help people who are formerly incarcerated get jobs there with the King's Kitchen, and yet they've been vandalized twice. I mean,
that's insane.
That's a perfect example of why he needs to get behind the businesses and help there be protection for the peaceful protests and policy changes for what people are unhappy about. That's just law, you know, and I don't understand why. Well, actually, I do. There's no other explanation in my mind that Governor Cooper would not protect his own people and businesses and provide for the police department to protect the protesters than he's getting pressure on the national level to keep North Carolina in chaos so that we cannot host the RNC. And then to top it all off, I'm getting a little bit heated here to top it all off.
You should.
Yes.
That's what we need right there.
I know. We're the voices of reason in this chaos. The mainstream media has taken over with a tirade of national sentiment that does not apply to our state, yet the whole target is our state because we're the host for the RNC. Or I think there's maybe a hairline chance that we could push back enough and drop the truth here. I mean, Tariq Bokhari did that on a video that you actually shared it with me, and it was pretty appalling to find out what happened. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, you can go to Tariq Bokhari's. He is one of our city council members. You can go to his Facebook page, and he has a series of videos that he explains the backstory of what was really going on, where there was hardcore negotiations that the RNC was trying to do everything possible to make this work, with including cutting the attendance inside the convention center by almost 50%.
And social distancing.
All of the other precautions that were being taken, like fogging the place in between meetings and things being done, temperatures being taken before they even entered the building. I mean, this is not a walk-ins welcome event anyway.
Right.
We know who's going to be there. We know, I mean, talk about it being easy to do tracing on who they've connected with. This was the event, but yet Cooper refused on every level and is relying on, think of this, 3 months from now, you're telling me that we are still going to need masks and social distancing. There is no science that will back that up. We do not know. And for the absurdity of shutting it down and being uncooperative and willing to negotiate, instead of the attitude of this. Okay, we are faced with a major crisis here. The RNC is coming. We are such an innovative city. Think about it. Think about our banking city and our technology.
Yeah.
Certainly, if we call all of the most brilliant minds together, we can figure out a way to make this happen safely. Where was that attitude? Where was that thought coming from Cooper, going, this is my state, this is going to be good for our economy, this is going to help us recover millions that have been lost through this COVID disaster. In fact, this is a gift to be able to have this in our state to help us recover so much more quicker than most states. We are going to make this work. How do we do this? Instead of that, he made it 100% political. And that right there shows that we should be fighting back with everything we got to say, you are not going to steal this opportunity from Charlotte.
That's correct.
This is robbery. It's robbery.
That's correct. And, Mayor Lyles, I'm sure sees the insanity of that. We're looking at a hospitality industry, small businesses there that stand to lose close to $200 million in revenue coupled with the city's revenue. How can Charlotte survive? I mean, we've been shut down for 3 months with COVID-19. This was the hope of getting some restoration in the pipeline financially. And then our own governor goes and knocks our feet out from under us with some bogus excuse. And then the mainstream media, Cindy, the mainstream media reporting lies about it and not reporting the truth. And it takes, Tariq and us getting online to expose the truth. And I'm going to point people again back to Tarek. We're going to put a link up there so that people can see the truth. This should not be happening.
Right.
You know, if in good faith, the president of the United States and the Republican Party tried to negotiate with the Democrat governor, you know, and the people's livelihoods in the city are at stake, the governor should choose to support his constituents.
Exactly.
Not a national party. You know, we know a lot of people don't like it, like Trump. That's not the issue. The survival of a city is the issue right now.
Right. And Mayor Vi, honestly, from the beginning of this, she fought for this because of the business boost that it would bring to this community. She was not trying to play the political game, and trust me, she was getting pressure from every angle to make it political. And you know, then there was round 2 when Braxton again objected to having the convention here, and there had to be another vote, and we had to get people there, business owners, show up at the city council meeting, that we just barely got it by 1 vote again because of the business that it would bring here. And now we're here again, where the place where the convention is being sabotaged by the governor. It doesn't make sense. And we stand more to lose than anyone else. If they choose another city, you know, Cooper will be like, well, you know, then North Carolina won't have to deal with all the tension and the political whatever. He doesn't care. He's in Raleigh. All right? That's not going to affect him like it's going to affect Charlotte. We're the ones that are going to have to potentially think about this. What happens a month from now when the CDC comes out with another news flash? We really don't need to be social distancing. We just need to, I mean, you know how this thing has gone. I'm not saying it's not serious. It is.
Right.
But they're all over the board with their protocols and a host of other things that have not been clear, but yet we are basing this entire cancellation on a moving target. It's just beyond unreasonable. I think there should be just layers of litigation against what this governor is doing. It's absurd.
Yeah. Well, what can Charlotteans do to get the RNC possibly reinstated back into Charlotte? I mean, is it sunk, Cindy? You've got a pulse downtown.
We need to be contacting all of our representatives in Raleigh. We need to be contacting our city council members, our county commissioners, and we need to keep this not about politics. This is about recovery from COVID. This is about an opportunity that will highlight Charlotte as the world-class city we are destined to be, because this speaks to our future. This is not just about right now. President's going to come and go in 4 years. These political leaders are going to be voted, their term's going to end. But our city's well-being, we're number 50 on upward mobility, and yet we have an opportunity, particularly for our service industry, which are the lower end of paid employees. We have an opportunity to dig them out and get their mobility moving much faster, and we're shutting that down. This is sabotage.
Yeah.
And we need to, when we write letters, when we call, when we do our Twitter and Instagram posts, we need to be passionate. We can't play nice.
Right.
We have to be aggressive. This is our city. We pay their salaries, and we need to let them know what they're doing is robbing from their community.
That's true. And Cindy, I'm so thankful that you're downtown, that you're advocating for the police and for the community simultaneously, that you've got 450 volunteers already from the community. And I know that it's a diverse group that comes alongside and serves the community and tries to keep peace. So Cindy, how can anybody get involved with your ambassadors program for the CMPD?
You go to bridgethedifferencenc.com, bridgethedifferencenc.com, and there'll be information about our ambassador program. If you sign up, you will get information about, we're transitioning into doing some Zoom trainings, obviously, because of the COVID thing. And then there will be some on-site trainings at the police academy, where we're able to have, because they have a massive auditorium there, get the information going. And you do not have to live in Charlotte to be part of this training, because when the large events come, we pull from the surrounding regions. They do that with the law enforcement and other first responder organizations and agencies. You're welcome to participate with us to learn the skills and take it back to your community. So,
do they have to be North Carolinians?
No, they do not even have to be North Carolinians.
Okay.
So, but signing up on our website, then we will contact you with the course curriculum. You get this nice binder full of material. You get a t-shirt, and you get to build relationships and know what you're talking about when you're talking to people in the community.
That's fantastic. Cindy Decker, it has been a pleasure to interview you today for Truth Tellers Network.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the fabulous work that you and the ambassadors, all 450 plus of you, are doing for the city of Charlotte. And to Chief Putney, we thank you so much for keeping everyone safe.
Thank you, Donica.
Thank you for being with us. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.